You may take your seats now. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to AmBisyon Natin 2014. To formally welcome everyone, I would like to call in the Director of the Southeast Asian Rural Social Leadership Institute and the Vice President of Xavier University for Social Development. Please welcome VP Ruel R. Rabanera.
Maayong buntag sa inyong tanan. Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Let me welcome all of you to Xavier University in behalf of our university president, who will be coming here to be one of the reactors also later. At this time, let me just welcome especially our guests who are here. We have a representative from the World Bank. They're at the back. They're working very hard. We also have representatives from NEDA and I think Assistant Regional Director is here. Maayong buntag, ma'am. We also have other government agencies here. We have representatives from DA and also from DAR and DPWH. We also have representative from LGU. Yes, welcome, sir. Of course, we have representatives from our friends from Xavier Ecoville, a relocation site here. Pak naman. Welcome to Xavier University. Welcome to Sir Salima. We also have our students from Xavier University, and our Vice President is here. Sasoy. Sir, welcome. We have our faculty and administrators as well today. The university, Xavier University, is facilitating this public forum as one of the Knowledge Development Centers, or KDC, that has been working with the World Bank in pushing for development agenda such as what we are having today. Xavier University has been designated as a KDC in 2015 and the only one in Northern Mindanao. NEDA, on the other hand, has been doing this consultation on AmBisyon Natin 2040. This is very important because this vision will run through 4 administrations. So, dili lang para sa atong gobyerno karon, pero the other 4 administrations that will be coming until 2040. So, in a way, this will guide our government leaders in where the country should be where we're going. So this is very important for all of us. And I think this consultation would be more important for Mindanao. Not only that we have a president that is coming from Mindanao, but I think Mindanao is in a situation where we have so much potentials, and yet we are also burdened with so many problems. For example, in the island would be the 6 poorest provinces in the country. And I think for us to address those problems, we would really need to work on a long-term kind of planning. But if we can solve the problem, some economists are also saying that the country can break away from our past and become a major player in the Asian region. So your inputs today would be really important as we move forward, and hopefully the AmBisyon Natin 2040 would be finalized with your views in it, and therefore would really have a lasting effect not only for Mindanao but for the country. So I wish you all the best in our discussion today, and hopefully we can all contribute to the development of the country. We can get the views of our friends from relocation sites in the country, and therefore your problems, your concerns can also all be included. So sa inyong tanan, daghang salamat sa inyong pagtambong sa atong public forum. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ruel. Klaro ang tingog. Hello? Murag lata ang tingog. Okay, just an update. Third quarter, 54-56 in favor of Warriors. Okay, thank you very much, Sir Ruel. And before anything else, this project was a little background of what we're doing today. We had a meeting, the World Bank had a meeting with all the KDCs in April, and NEDA Central Office introduced AmBisyon Natin 2040. And in last month, in May, we were asked, Xavier University was asked by NEDA and World Bank if we could do the Mindanao leg for the public forum, and we said yes. But actually, we were reluctant to say yes to June 20 because today is the 9th episode of Game of Thrones, and the last game for this season for NBA. But we're having a different vision now. This is good for administration in the next 15 years. So the two events, the global events today, the Game 7 and Game of Thrones are just passing. What we're doing today is for the next 15 years. So to give us the background of AmBisyon Natin, I would like to call in the Assistant Regional Director of NEDA Region 10 to give us an introduction and the life you want. Please give a round of applause for Ms. May Esther Diamadel.
Okay, thank you, Evans. Mayong buntag sa tanan. Siguro magpaila-ila mi. We would like to introduce, we have two major resource persons today, myself, and also of course our Director for Development Information Staff of the NEDA Central Office, Director Nerissa Esquera. She's right there with you sitting. So we are very happy. On behalf of our Regional Director in the Region 10, Engineer Leon M. Lacanay Jr., we are very pleased to be in this public forum organized by the World Bank Knowledge Development Center and also with NEDA. So before I start with my presentation, it is actually an introduction on the AmBisyon Natin 2040. Let us first watch this video.
Ano ang ambisyon ng mga Pilipino?
Simple lang naman po, gawin hanga yung buhay namin. Gusto ko sustentahan yung pamilya ko kung ano man yung ginawa nila sa akin ngayon.
Gusto ko magkaroon ako ng sariling house and lot at saka sakyan, tapos kahit maliit na negosyo.
Po yung makakaawa ko sa mga kain sa loob ng isang araw at 2 beses dapat. Nakakarap ko po matupad po yung ginusto sa akin ng magulang ko.
Sana magkaroon ng gobyerno para sa libreng pagkonsulta, sa libreng hospitalization ng mga kagaya ng senior citizen.
Pangarap ko po sa sarili ko ngayon, una ko po sa mga anak ko, na magkaroon po silang magandang buhay.
dream ko siguro is that I'm really able to live in a Philippine government which is corrupt-free, a government who is caring to the people, able to provide all the needs, particularly education, food, and shelter for everyone.
Paano natin matutupad ang mga ito? Trabaho at mas mataas na sahod. Mas kumikita ang mga negosyo. Edukasyon at kalusugan para sa lahat. Pabahay at mas maayos sa transportasyon. Kahandaan sa mga kalamitan. Kapayapaan at seguridad sa buong bansa. Tapat na pamahalaang tumutugon sa mga pangangailangan natin. Ikaw, ako, tayo, tungo sa gusto nating kinabukasan.
Okay, so having watched that, I can see that your curiosity and of course, hopefully your excitement will be building up to learn more what is AmBisyon Natin 2040. So this AmBisyon Natin 2040 started in early of 2015. It is a project launched by the National Economic and Development Authority to plan for a long-term vision of the Philippines. And we all know that as a new administration is coming in, we would like that there would be change, but change in a way that will also sustain the gains of the past. That is very important to us. And we know that inclusive growth that we have pursued in this last 6 years cannot be fully achieved in 6 years, because poverty reduction is really a difficult task for countries like the Philippines. So we know also that it would take decades to address reduction of poverty and bring the country to a higher level of development. So how do we craft and carry out something over many years spanning several administrations? So as Dr. Ravanera said, it would take about four to 5 terms to effect something that we wanted for so long as a country. So with this, the NEDA embarked on this long-term vision project, which we now call AmBisyon Natin 2040. AmBisyon is really a play of words. The vision, ambition, ang atong paglantaw, and ambition. Unsay gusto nato mahitabo sa atong kaugalingon. So that is AmBisyon Natin 2040. So what is AmBisyon Natin 2040? It is a long-term vision of Filipinos for self and for the country. So we would like also to emphasize that it is not a plan, but a vision. Sa atong sinultian pa, ang atong paglantaw as one country and one people. It is a 25-year vision for the Filipinos and the Philippines, which could be a basis for unity among Filipinos, especially at this time. It is envisioned to be an anchor for development planning across administrations and a guide for engaging with international development partners. Given that it is a long-term project, sustaining the initiative is crucial. And the key, we think, is the citizens buy-in. So kinahanglan pututa, kinahanglan kung yun sa nato pagpaputang diha si President Duterte, ing antututa ka unified. So we have to have a buy-in. Palito nato siya for us to own it, to work for it, together with our leaders. So how do we get citizens to buy into something like this? The answer, we thought, is to introduce a new approach to government planning. Though participatory planning is not new, but there are now several avenues for citizen involvement. And there has not been any systematic way of involving as many citizens as possible in setting development goals and targets. So we should start by asking, what kind of life do Filipinos want to live in the next 2 decades or so? And how do we see ourselves and the country in 2040? So we have this long-term vision process. So first, there was an advisory committee formed to formulate, to oversee the overall formulation. And it is composed of representatives from government, the private sector, and the academy. Can I have a glass of water, please? And then there were public consultations, of which 42 FGDs with the marginalized groups, and a national survey of 15 to 50 years old, 10,000 PSRC. There were also technical studies, so these are thematic study team organized and led by Dr. Clarete. And of course, the important component is the communication and advocacy, which we have an online media engagement. If you can see, we have a Facebook page for AmBisyon Natin. I hope especially the youth would be able to look into it and share the information therein. And also these public forums like this. So let us now proceed to the life we want based on the results of the national survey. So we are just providing you some highlights, but we have data on this. Ano nga ba ang uri ng pamumuhay na gusto nating mga Pilipino? Let's watch this video featuring our Deputy Director General for Policy and Planning, Rosemary G. Edilon.
Our simple summation is matatag, maginhawa, at panatag na buhay para sa lahat. Or strongly rooted, comfortable, and secure life for all. The aspirations are family-centered. Even children aspire for a life that includes their parents. Gusto nila ng maginhawang buhay para sa kanilang pamilya na hindi nahihirapan at walang pag-alala. At kapag pinagsama-sama ang mga pamilyang Pilipino na ito, sila ang pagmumula ng isang economically vibrant society and resilient community. When we asked our respondents to tell us their aspirations, we asked them to describe to us what it is that they want to have, to do, and to be by 2040. An overwhelming majority, halos 80%, ang nagsabi na nais nila ng simple at maginhawang buhay. Halos 17% lamang ang nagsabi na gusto nila ng buhay ng may kaya at mas mababa pa sa 4% ang naghahangad ng buhay mayaman. Ano kaya ibig sabihin naman ng simple at maginhawang buhay? Kung ating titingnan ang pagkakalarawan nito, masasabi natin ito ay isang middle class lifestyle. May sasakyan, may bahay, may sapat na pera, at nakapagtapos ng kolehiyo ang mga anak. Nang tinanong naman namin sila kung ano yung gusto nilang magawa pagdating ng 2014, halos pare-pareho ang nagsasabing gusto nila na makapagpatakbo ng sarili nilang negosyo at makapag-relax kasama ng pamilya at kaibigan. Marami rin ang nagsasabi na gusto nila makapagbakasyon sa Pilipinas man o sa abroad. Tungkol naman sa decent job, ang pagkakalugan pala nila dito ay mayroong maayos na sahod na sapat para sa kanilang pang-araw-araw na pangangailangan at para sa biglaang gastusin. So, mayroong benefits at incentives at stability. Kung isasabay naman natin dito yung klase ng worker na gusto nilang maging, makikita natin na nakakahigit ang nais makapagtrabaho para sa sarili nilang business. 47%, 22% at 18%. Saan naman nila gusto magtrabaho? Halos 19% actually ang nagsabi na gusto nila magtrabaho dito sa sarili nating bayan. Halos 80% ang gusto magtrabaho at manirahan sa parehong syudad. kulang sa 15% ang gusto magtrabaho sa syudad pero umuwi naman sa labas ng syudad. Sa usapin naman ng bahay, nagpakita kami ng iba't ibang larawan ng klase ng kabahayan. Merong single detached, apartment, row house at condominium. Na halos 3 sa bawat 4 na respondent ang pumili ng small house with a big lot. Tinanong din namin kung saan nila gustong tumira. Halos pareho din ang dami ng nagsabi na gusto nila sa maliit na syudad o sa malaking syudad gaya ng Manila, at mas marami ang nagsabi na nais nilang manirahan sa town center na sa probinsya. Halos lahat ng respondent ay nagsabing nais nilang makapagtapos ng kolehiyo ang kanilang mga anak. Tinanong naman namin ang mga kabataan na hindi pa nakatapos ng kolehiyo kung ano ang gusto nilang kurso or major fields of study na napili ng marami naman ay education, business administration, IT, tourism, and hospitality, engineering, law, and medical fields. Mahalaga rin sa bawat Pilipino na maayos ang kanilang finances. Para sa 61%, dapat daw ay sapat ito sa pang-araw-araw ng pangangailangan, at samantalang 28% naman ang gusto nila ay mayroon sapat na ipon para din sa mga di inaasahang gastusin. Ang mga unexpected expenses na to ay maaaring dahil sa pagkakasakit or mga natural hazards at man-made calamities. Ang ipon din ang inaasahan nila na panggagalingan ng pambili ng sasakyan, bahay at pangsuporta sa retirement. So, Filipinos want to be mobile. Halos 8 sa bawat 10 respondent ang nais ay magkaroon ng sariling sasakyan. At 2 lamang ang mas gusto ng good public transportation. Kahit na sa focus group discussion ay lumalabas ang kahalagahan ng physical mobility sa mga Pilipino. Ang pinakagustong leisure activity ay ang pamamasyal sa iba't ibang lugar sa Pilipinas o sa abroad. Kasama na sa pamamasyal ang pagdalaw sa kanilang mga magulang. So, ito ang aming pagsasalarawan ng kalidad na buhay na nais ng bawat Pilipino. May sariling bahay, sa isang urban center o syudad, may sasakyan, nakakapagbakasyon at nakakadalaw sa kanilang mga magulang na may edad na. In other words, here is the vision of Filipinos for self. In 2040, we will all enjoy a stable and comfortable lifestyle, secure in the knowledge that we have enough for our daily needs and unexpected expenses, that we can plan and prepare for our own and our children's future. Our family lives together in a place of our own, yet we have the freedom to go where we choose, protected and enabled by a clean, efficient, and fair government. And that is the life we want.
Okay, so we have just watched a video summarizing what the Filipino wants and its vision. And also we would like to share with you in the context of Mindanao. So the national results also reflect the aspiration of people in Mindanao, wherein 83% also want simple and comfortable life. 14% want a prosperous or affluent life, while only 3% want the life of the rich. And as mentioned by DDG Edilon in the video, our simplest summation of the life that we want is matatag, maginhawa, at panatag na buhay para sa lahat. Strongly rooted, comfortable, and secure life for all. And the aspirations are family-centered. If you notice in the first video, people would mention magulang, anak. Yung isa nga ang sabi, pangarap ko sa sarili ko, unang-una po sa mga anak ko na mabigyan sila ng magandang buhay. So it's not only for self, but for family. Even children aspire for a life that includes their parents. Gusto nila na maginhawang buhay para sa kanilang pamilya, na hindi nahihirapan at walang pag-alala. So, ato gihapon ng reflection. Siguro kamo sa inyong pagtanaw ni adto, more or less inyo pong ma-feel nga mo po nang atong kinahanglan nga kinabuhi, dili ba? Labi na kani sila man ang nasa tubangan. Okay. So, and when you aggregate all Filipino families together, you produce an economically vibrant society and resilient community. So what is a simple and comfortable life? So in Mindanao, we want to have majority, that's 66%, want to have their own car. About 45.3% want to own a car, and 64% of respondents in Mindanao mentioned they want to have enough money for day-to-day needs, while 66% want to own a medium-sized house or home. In terms of what they want to be, 7 out of 10 would want to earn enough, while 74% would want older children to be college educated. In terms of what they want to do, most would want to relax with family and friends, while 29% want to be business owners and 17% want to travel. For education, which is one of their priorities, the ability to send all children to college is part of the aspirations of about 7 in 10 Filipinos. For respondents who have not yet finished college, their preferred field of study are science and teacher training, followed by business administration and related fields. As seen in the figures, however, preferences really vary. Perhaps because being young, they may not know yet their career options. The aforementioned fields of study in the national level are also the most preferred fields of study in Mindanao, with some marginal differences. So for occupation, majority of Filipinos want to work, and a large majority also wants to be entrepreneurs. They want to work in their own businesses. Nationally, 47% want to be employers in their family-operated farm or business. 22% want to be self-employed without any paid employee. 18% want to work with pay in their own family-operated farm or business. And we find that they want decent jobs. A decent occupation for Filipinos is defined as having a good income, having benefits and incentives, particularly insurance and in retirement benefits, and being stable or secure, not boom or bust or feast or famine type. Usahay naa, usahay wala. Note that entrepreneurship, which is what many people want, may not be able to provide a stable and regular income, especially for startups and SMEs. But this is something to think about. If people want to set up their own businesses and at the same time want secure income, then this means that the business they set up will have to be profitable enough. These trends are also true in Mindanao, but higher preference to work for government or government corporation and work with pay in their own family-operated farm or business is noted compared with the national results. In terms of dwelling, in Mindanao, more people prefer to have a small house with a big lot than having a big house with a small lot. Also, respondents from Mindanao have a higher preference to live in the town center in the province, while only 13% want to live in a big city like Manila, compared with 30% in the national results. So ang mga Mindanao, kuan may pagka-probinsyano lagi hapon, prefer the small town center, rural, a mix of urban and rural setting. The survey also asked respondents about where they prefer to work and reside. The question was, if you have a decent job or occupation in the year 2040, and if the transportation system in the Philippines is also functional, which of the following everyday living concerning your work and residence would you prefer? So being family-centered, Filipinos generally want to work where they can be in close proximity with the family. where they can get to spend more time with the family. This is evident from the national survey results that 88% want to work within the country, and 79% want to live within the same city where they work. And meanwhile, 14% want to work in a big city but go home outside of the city. And also 7% want to work and live outside the city. Such preference is also true in Mindanao. 88% agree that it's good for the country if the citizens stay in the country instead of going abroad to work. However, respondents from Mindanao have slightly higher preference to live within the same city where they work, while they less prefer to work in a big city than go home outside the city or live outside the city. In terms of money or finance, it is very important to most Filipinos, and it should be at least be enough to support the daily needs. But many Filipinos also want to have savings that will enable them to finance unexpected expenses such as sudden illness, natural hazards, and man-made calamities, and also to buy a car and a house as well as support retirement. And in Mindanao, majority also want enough money for their daily needs and savings for unexpected expenses. So Filipinos want to be mobile. The importance of physical mobility for day-to-day living and for leisure is evident. And this is true even among the poor and the marginalized based on the focus group discussions conducted. Ordinary people's measure of their own success is the degree to which they are able to afford travel for themselves and their families. Traveling within the country and to other countries is most frequently cited activity among the Filipinos. Car ownership is part of the many Filipinos' vision of their future. In terms of preferred mode of transport, 80% of respondents from Mindanao want to own a vehicle. And even if they are given a choice to avail of good public transportation, only 20% prefer good public transportation. And perhaps this is because of the current state of our public transportation, especially in Metro Manila, which is very inefficient, that people desire more to have their own vehicles. So in relation to the vision for the country, majority of the Filipinos consider eradicating poverty, 50%, and hunger, 64%, and generation of sufficient local jobs, 51%, as the most essential economic goals of the country that the country should aim for. 64% believe that no one should be hungry. 51% believe that all Filipinos should have a chance of finding a job locally, and no one should be poor come 2040. Aside from hunger, poverty, and jobs, housing is also among the main economic issues that need to be addressed in Mindanao. The FGD and also the survey results also clearly indicate the strong demand for a clean, efficient, and service-oriented government. And Filipinos believe that eliminating corruption is important in achieving a better future. Not only on a large scale or grand corruption, but on small scale petty corruption, the kind that victimizes the poorest among us. Ease and efficiency of government transaction is likewise considered important. Aside from ending corruption being the most important aspect of government service that should be addressed, respondents said the following are also important: fair enforcement of the law, fast and easy processes, order and safety in the community, fast response towards problems and complaints, enough avenues to be able to ask for help. So what then is the vision of Filipinos for the country? So by 2040, most Filipinos in this study said that the Philippines shall be a country where all citizens are free from hunger and poverty, have equal opportunities, enabled by fair and just society that is governed with order and unity. A nation where families live together, thriving in vibrant, culturally diverse, and resilient communities. And that is our vision for 2040. Ambisyon natin 2040, ang atong paglantaw sa 2040. So maraming salamat, maayong buntag sa inyong tanan.
To give us more information about AmBisyon Natin 2040, please welcome the Director for Development Information Staff of the NEDA Central Office, Ms. Nerissa T. Esguerra, to talk about our lives right now and realizing the vision.
Mayong buntag po sa inyong lahat. Magandang umaga. So, napakinggan po natin yung aspirations of the Filipino people. Para ho mabigyan ng konteksto yung vision kung bakit ganun yung gustong mangyari ng mga Pilipino. Let me just give you some of the perceived constraints to the aspirations of Filipinos. So if we liken the exercise to a journey, we can think of the vision or the people's aspirations as our destination. This is where we want to go. So ito yung gusto nating marating. And in planning to get there, we need to consider where we are vis-a-vis the destination and how the landscape looks like going there. So is there a paved road? Do we need to cross rivers? Do we need to traverse mountains? These are the challenges and constraints we face. In realizing the vision, these are the difficulties that we encounter, the hurdles that we need to overcome. So given the landscape, we then look for routes and modes of transportation that will bring us to our destination. Do we drive a car, take a bus or a plane? Do we take a ferry? Or should we build a bridge? So what are the advantages and disadvantages of each? In the same manner, we need to think about the strategies that will help us realize the vision in a cost-effective way. It will also be good to have landmarks that will guide us along the way. Are we on the right track? How are we now? And where are we now? How far are we? And are we there yet? Sabi nga ng mga bata. So these are the milestones, the indicators for the 6-year targets of each administration. So for our 2040 vision, our destination, earlier we defined the simple and comfortable life according to what Filipinos want to have, yun yung yellow, and what they want to do in red, and what they want to be in blue. We now need to address the landscape, or to assess the landscape, the geography or topography that represent the opportunities and challenges that Filipinos face in trying to get to their destination or the desired lifestyle. What I'll show you are some of the results of part 2 of the survey on their current situation and the constraints they face. These will provide a hint of how near or how far we are to our desired 2040 lifestyle. In terms of what Filipinos want to have, Filipinos are generally confident that they will be able to buy a house. 81% said they will be able to save enough money to buy a house. Only 8% said they'll take out a loan from Pag-ibig, bank, or family members. However, when asked about how they save, only 17.6% were able to save money in the past year, while 65.9% of the population have the capacity to recover from small expenses. Only 22.3% have the capacity to recover from big unexpected expenses due to illness or typhoon. And what keep people from saving? All of these reasons cited in the slide are hindrances or constraints to saving money. So unexpected expenses caused by disasters like typhoons, floods, and armed conflict, illness in the family pag nagkasakit, high cost of everyday transportation, lots of loans, maraming utang, lack of capital for business or livelihood, small salary, high cost of goods, and finding a secure job. So however, at least 50% of the respondents mentioned that unexpected expenses caused by disasters, illness of the family, and loan are the big hindrances. This inability to save will affect the realization of what they want to do, which is relax with family and friends, take occasional trips, and become a business owner. Peace and security also affect the realization of what Filipinos want to have. 8 out of 10 have worries about the chaos or armed encounters in their community. When asked about the things that they might worry or fear about, the biggest source of this worry is about losing their source of income and also losing their ability to provide their families' everyday needs. And as shown earlier, 9 out of 10 plan to start a business from now until the next 25 years. However, 52.8% said that it is somewhat hard to have a capital to start or grow a business, while 34.4% find it definitely hard or even impossible. Other constraints that they face include the difficulty in looking for a market to sell their products or services, as well as the logistical requirements for these goods and services to be sold. Filipinos are generally confident that their children will have a decent job, they will have a house of their own, they will find the jobs that fit their course, and they will finish their studies. Very optimistic talaga tayo mga Pilipino, lalo na sa mga anak natin. Filipinos want to earn enough, which they can by having a job or business. In terms of employment, 9 out of 10 respondents agree that they will be able to find a job if they want to. But they also believe that having a business is necessary for their own life's progress. Moreover, 53.6% of respondents said that their job or occupation has security or regularity in earnings, which means that they have confidence that every month they have enough income or salary for their needs. These usually came from those who are working in the urban or in the Visayas. However, the population is still worried on different aspects, especially the poor, who are most worried about their job or sources of income. For their children's education, Filipinos are also confident that they will be able to send their children to school and finish elementary. However, this confidence is decreasing the higher the education level is, especially among the poor, with 90.7% of the respondents being confident of their ability to send their children to school and have them finish elementary. For finishing college, only 62% of the poor are confident that they will be able to do this. While Filipinos are also satisfied with their schools in their community, some are constrained to be in school or to send their children to school because of the above reasons. At least 50% of the respondents consider the following as big constraints to education. So first, insufficient livelihood or income of the family. Second is loss of interest and having the ability or disability or illness. So in the previous slide, 54.8% said that having illness or disability is a big hindrance for them to complete their education. So let's proceed with the challenges Filipinos face in terms of health. Filipinos are generally satisfied with both private and public hospitals, as well as employees that attend to them. However, when we ask the respondents if they will be worried about hospital bills when someone from their family gets sick and needs to be sent to the hospital, the respondents are generally worried, of course. The most worried are the poor. 9 out of 10 will be worried. 83.2% of those who earlier said they are confident that they will be able to pay for the expenses for their health and possible illnesses in the next 25 years said that they will be worried too. Much more those who are not confident with 91.5%. And according to the survey, the hospitals are generally accessible. However, among the poor, 22.4% said that there is a road and public transportation to the hospital, but they cannot afford it. So kahit merong magastos pa rin yung pumunta sa ospital. Another 2.9% from the poor said that there is no road and public transportation to the nearest hospital. And so those are the challenges we face. We now go to, at this point, the question you may have in mind is whether the vision for the self and for the country are realistic. And I guess for them, the answer is a resounding yes. It is possible with the right policies. Let me now show you a video of the Secretary Emmanuel Esguerra, who is, by the way, not related to me. Magka-apelido lang po ng asawa ko at siya. Pero hindi kami magkamag-anak, so walang nepotism. So, okay.
I guess at this point, the question that many of you may have in mind is whether this vision is realistic. For us in NEDA, the answer is a resounding yes. It is possible with the right policies. We recognize, however, that government has a critical role to play in supporting the realization of these aspirations. Government needs to provide enabling conditions to help Filipinos build up their resources, including physical, intellectual, and financial, by fostering sustained, investing in people, and protecting them against instability. The government also needs to provide the appropriate rules of the game and ensure that these are enforced fairly and equally. Sustained public investments to close the country's infrastructure gap will be important in removing bottlenecks that have limited the potential of various sectors of the economy and in allowing the benefits of growth to be spread more widely. We also need to provide an environment that fosters competition and rewards innovation, as they are critical for long-term growth. Government also needs to sustain public investments in the country's most important asset, its people. Investments in health and education will ensure the availability of a healthy, highly trainable, and skilled labor force, allow the poor to benefit more from growth, and foster the development of a more entrepreneurial society. The state also needs to adequately protect the citizens against social, environmental, and economic instability. This includes the provision of protection against peace and security threats, as well as health and environmental risks. As regards institutions, the FGD and survey results clearly indicate the strong demand for a clean, efficient, and service-oriented government. Filipinos believe that eliminating corruption is important in achieving a better future. Not only large-scale grand corruption, but also small-scale petty corruption, the kind that victimizes the poorest among us. Ease and efficiency of government transactions is likewise considered important. Empirical studies indicate that with the right policies, improvements in productivity and efficiency can triple our gross national per capita income to about $11,000 in 25 years, allowing majority of our people to enjoy nearly high-income country standards of living. Note that over the last 33 years, 1981 to 2014, we were only able to raise our real per capita income by 1.8 times. In contrast, without reforms, per capita income can only grow to around $5,000 over a period of 25 years. That is not even double the current level of $3,500. The impact on poverty will depend both on the robustness of economic growth as well as how it is distributed. Weak income growth, coupled with elevated disparity in income, can weigh down the efforts to eradicate poverty. On the other hand, if inequality declines significantly, poverty cuts are deeper, and the process of eradicating poverty is shorter. The analysis suggests that if strong growth is accompanied by reductions in inequality, poverty could be eradicated before 2040. In other words, this will only be obtained if economic growth continues to be robust and inclusive. What does having a per capita income of $11,000 mean? A concrete example would be Malaysia, whose per capita income was at $11,120 as of 2014. It actually took Malaysia 33 years to triple its real per capita income. Note that using the new $1.90 a day international extreme poverty line, Malaysia has managed to reduce extreme poverty incidence below 1%. We therefore believe that by 2040 it is very possible that the Philippines shall be a country where all citizens are free from hunger and poverty, have equal opportunities, enabled by fair and just society that is governed with order and unity. A nation where families live together, thriving in vibrant, culturally diverse, and resilient communities. The road to realizing this vision is filled with challenges, however. Firstly, it needs to survive a change in administration 4 times over the next 25 years. It will also require a lot of patience, as not all our ambitions will be achievable immediately nor simultaneously. We will also have to sustain the momentum over a period of 25 years under changing conditions, requiring adjustments and flexibility in our strategies. So what does this imply in terms of our next steps? It means we will need to build a broad constituency for the vision and the reforms needed to attain it. Among others, this will involve a good communication strategy to communicate the vision to all stakeholders so as to gain widespread recognition and acceptance. The vision also needs to be translated into specific goals, measurable targets, and intermediate milestones, while allowing for flexibility in strategies. We will need to take into consideration the country's international commitments under the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals, or the SDGs. The strategies needed to achieve these targets will then be the subject of our next 4 Philippine Development Plan. Institutional arrangements may also have to be adjusted to ensure horizontal and vertical policy coherence and sustained implementation. As I mentioned earlier, it is clear to us that government needs to play its role in making this vision a reality. But clearly, we cannot do this alone. We will need everyone's help and cooperation.
Thank you very much, Ms. Nerissa and Ms. May. At this point, clearly it is our concern really what will happen to us in the next 25 years. So we have also invited today 4 panelists to talk about AmBisyon Natin 2040. Our first panelist is Mr. Ernesto Tontoneri. He's the convener of the Oro Youth Development Council, and he will talk about his reaction to AmBisyon Natin 2040. Okay, we also have a rural sociologist, and he's also the academic vice president of Xavier University. Please welcome Father Rene Takastakas of the Society of Jesus. We have the representative from the Cagayan de Oro Chamber of Commerce, former Undersecretary of the Department of Agriculture, Mr. Bobby Ansaldo. And we have an economist and the president of Xavier University, Ateneo de Cagayan, Father Roberto C. Yap of the Society of Jesus. Each panelist has been informed that they have at least 8 minutes for their presentation, and we will have the open forum directly after Father Bobby has spoken his piece.
So good morning, everyone. So the audience is made of students mostly, di ba? All of you are, almost all. I would just like to highlight that point because the vision is primarily for, addressed primarily to our generation. Because in 2010, I'm not sure of the data now, but 2010, the median age of young people in Cagayan de Oro is 24 years old. So if you add 40 years, no, 2040, pila pa yung basically, it's, the bottom line is your generation, our generation is the one who carries the bulk of this vision. So I understand that it might be difficult to appreciate it because it's not immediate, but please bear in mind that there's no other generation that is addressed to except to our generation. So making or breaking that vision depends on our our own audacity, our own commitment to that. Now, looking at the vision, the first thing that we have to, that I find it very interesting is Filipinos mostly just want to have a simple life. We don't need to have, or can I stand? I'll stand here. Parang murag to. Primarily, what you saw in the presentation is that Filipinos really just want to have a very simple life. With a decent house, with a car, and the ability to travel. Those things are things that Neda said is very achievable. So the things that I will share next is our own recommendation for how to sustain that or achieve that vision for the next 40 years. And I would like to address it also in the local experiences that we have in Cagayan City. The first one is, we're suggesting three things that we have to think about. The first one is, government should, number one, create a system where the input of young people can be efficiently delivered. That's the first point that we have to highlight. And this involves primarily the SK. So all of you know the SK, right? But do you know that the SK is already, it has changed, it has reformed. The elections are scheduled to be set on October, and then the age bracket has been increased from 18 to 24. So those things, I would like to highlight that because before we talk about programs, it's very important that government should have a mechanism where the inputs of young people get to be recognized directly. And this is also an opportunity, not just for future leaders in the community, but for the academy itself. I think this is where the school can get involved in forming leaders and forming the attitude of citizenship. Because there is now a platform in government where these young people can directly engage in. So that's the one thing that we have to always bear in mind, that there is this system that we have to take full advantage. And also, guys, I think this is also an opportunity for us to change our mindset about government. Because for a long time, young people has always been seen as mere clients of government or the end user of government services. We see government as someone that will just provide us with scholarship funds or startup, etc. Basically, we're just beneficiaries. But with this system where we can get involved, we're hoping to transform our mindset from mere beneficiaries to citizens that can influence the decision-making processes. So from just getting scholarship fund, we should move up by dictating or influencing how the resources are allocated and what policies should be given priority. So do you see the shift? And that's the opportunity that we have right now. Second is, once that is strengthened, the academe gives full programs that will educate young people how to be good citizens and good public leaders. The second point that we have to talk about is youth organizations and active youth groups should seriously consider investing more time in the development of youth cooperatives and small business scale, small enterprises. That's the area that keeps on popping out some consultations that young people, as shown in the survey, want to have businesses, maybe online or sa LMFS, but basically they want to have a source of income aside from mere compensation from work. So that is an area that we ought to invest more time in, and particularly in the agriculture sector, because we've seen that most of the poverty is in the rural area, and also agriculture, by the way, is the murag dili na kay interesado ang mga batanon sa agriculture. Diba? I think that's really the experience we had, because they see it as a sort of downside. Mo na mo makadunggan, but the reality is it's a very important sector. The young people should invest more their time or their thoughts in investing in agriculture. Not just for our food security or our climate adaptation, but because it's a very important part of our economy. And the third one is this, and the last point in my policy sharing is that we've observed that the mga batanon karon, they're not really afraid of not getting access to education. I think access to education has improved dramatically for the past 10 years. But their fear now dwells more on how do they, are the education they are getting enough for them to secure a steady flow of income once they graduate. That's the fear. Is their education enough? It's not anymore the access, but the quality of education. So that is an area that I think the government and the local government should invest more. How to improve quality education in the public school particularly. How to reduce teacher to student ratio. And then particularly in that area is the out of school youth. Okay, one of the risks that we're seeing now is when we are becoming a K-12 country is that daghan ang families that can afford senior high, and that's one of the problems there. So particularly, we have to always remind government to invest in the out-of-school youth in different forms. First, they can either lead by organizing them. Government should, at least in the local level, would encourage industries to provide a certain portion of the workforce for out-of-school youth, accompanied with training, and then the basic training that can equip them after. So those are the three areas that we keep on discussing in our council, those three major areas. Then the rest are, I think, can be addressed if the first one is properly established, the input of youth in the government processes. And then the third point, the third question that we are asked to share to you guys is the risk that we see. So, as already shared, kanilang start among reflection, as long as, this is what we've discovered, realized in the course of our engagement, as we never disperse political or economic power, meaning if political and economic power is solely concentrated in the hands of very few people, we will always remain in that middle income trap. That's what we somehow realized, not just because of literature, but our own experiences. If power is just concentrated in a few group of people, we will never break out from our trap, poverty trap. So that's very important that we have to support policies that democratize the management of wealth. And that's why we always push for cooperativism. We have to push for policies that will open up government, like the freedom of information, and other systems that will make government efficient. Because permiranik balik-balik atong conversation if our relationship with capital is not redefined. That's why it's very important that we have to consider a fair amount of redistribution of wealth. That's the problem that we're experiencing now. Okay, dagan ako ito economic growth, but many people don't feel the benefits of that growth. And this is a very controversial moment, but that's something that we have to face as a nation. And lastly, as I shared earlier, the Philippines, if nakamina mo sa news, the Philippines is in a very good position because of what we call the demographic sweet spot. Demographic sweet spot, dili ko economics, but that's the term they use. It means that the Philippines is a very young country. We are one of the youngest countries in the world, and that's an asset because they're expecting that the entire workforce, one bulge will go to the workforce, consume a lot, spend a lot, and that will help boost the economy. So that is because daghan kita young people, 1/3 of the population. And if we just put our acts together, we can really make this country a developed country in the next 40 years. So with that, thank you so much for your time and ears.
Maayong buntag sa tanan. Good morning. Just entitled with some modest reflections. Modest recognition. Okay. Modest recognition. Gamay lang siguro. Next slide please. Some pre-notes. I'm a rural sociologist and I've been working with farmers, and that's my own perspectives in terms of my sharing right now are really shaped from my own experience, and that's why the survey would serve to validate or negate or perhaps refine my own perspectives. And these are just attempts at cross-evaluations of data as my basis of analysis. I have not dealt with the data statistically, and that's why I'm just going to hazard my own reflections, not necessarily interpretations of our data. Next slide, please. This is my first observation. What is the desired life of the Filipinos? It's really a modicum of standard living. It's a simple life. It's a simple life. You go to the farmers, they are not asking to become rich. They just want kontento lang may sa among kinabuhi. Tinuod ba? Ang ilang ingon, moingon silang tabangan mi sa NGO, tabangan mi sa gobyerno, pero wala may ilusyon na mahimo ning sapian. Pero ang among gusto, simple lang na kinabuhi. Unsa man ang simple? Simple meaning life resilient against economic stresses and financial shocks. Kung magkasakit ni, it's really a financial shock. Unta dili ni maupot. Unta dili ni makabaligya sa among kabaw. Unta dili ni makabaligya sa among yuta. If the shock would entail paying hospital bills and in return selling land, selling carabao, that's really a huge financial shock. We don't want that to happen. And that's why we just dili mi gusto rich. Gusto lang namo realistic about sakto lang yun ang kinabuhi. Sakto lang yun ang kinabuhi. And that's why you cannot fault some farmers kung naa sila'y maka-jackpot sila sa merkado kay nakakuha sila og dako kaayo nga benta sa ilang utan at let's say for instance 200,000, and that could be possible. You know, ayaw sila gyang iring umuan to sa Jollibee kay magkaon sila tibuok pamilya, because their lives have been a life of drudgery. Tipos kapoy kaayo pag-abot sa sa panahon nga naka-jackpot kanang pagkaon nila sa Jollibee mo kada ilang panahon nga maka-heaven sila. And then they will spend some other monies like TV, radyo, or even cell phones. Okay? Moingon ka nga, nganong dili man na sila mag-save sa bangko. There's no banking in them. Wala silang bangko, wala silang bank account. But their insurance is the cell phone, is the TV, is the radyo, is the karaoke. Kung magkapit-os man, kung magbayad man, mo kini ang mauna nga maibaligya. Mo kini ang mauna nga ipon, isamla. That's how they become resilient. They have their own ways. They just want a simple life. Next slide. From the survey, it says there, from the poor, it's difficult to move upward. The socio-economic mobility in terms of upward mobility is quite difficult, and that's how they see themselves now. Na ang mga pobre murag lisod gyud kaayo makaangat sa kinabuhi, no? Less assured yun. It's never automatic. It means to say that you really have to make kayod. Grabe yun. Sheer grit. Okay? No pain, no gain. Kung dili ka magkayod, wag yun kayo makuha. Okay? Pero muiwan ang uban, grabe ng among kayod. Dili gihapon enough. Okay? That's why it may be good that socioeconomic structures assure some upward mobility. See, ngayon ang mga ginikanan nga, kamo mga anak, pag-eskwela gud mo, pagtarong gud mo sa iyong eskwela, makahuman gud mo kay ang ilang pagtuo nga kung maka-eskwela ang mga anak na ay upward mobility later on. And that's why in terms of upward mobility, it's not my generation. Dili kami karon ang musapian. Dili kami karon ang muda. Manghinaot mi ang among mga anak mo. Manghinaot mi ang among anak mo parang arak ko kinabuhi. And that's why people put premium on education. And many a time, they would say, nga pagtarong yun mo anak sa inyong edukasyon, hindi haragin ang atong talingkawasan sa kapito sa kagabuhi. Next slide, please. And that's why in terms of education, let's talk about the education. Ingon lagi sila nga, tama, education. Okay? Makatabang yun ka na kanato. Pero again, there is no automatic in terms of education. Makahuman lang ka sa college, mura gihapon. No? Mura gihapon, no? Education leads to a better life. Yes, it leads to a better life. But take a look, college education. In terms of the ranking, it ranks lower. Okay? But the jobs is high. Notice the difference. Okay? We want good jobs. Okay? Not necessarily meaning to say nga, we will have college education. Kasi ang college education is not at all a guarantee to a better life. But the jobs, the education that will provide me a job. And that's why for the poor, education is enough. Is it enough towards better life? Maybe not. But the kind of a quality education, maybe. The poor says education provides opportunities for jobs. Yes, it provides opportunities for jobs. But the reality is the affluent, the rich. The affluent, the rich. They have, the chances for education. And that's why their own thinking is not about jobs. It's about own business, becoming entrepreneur, becoming employer of their own. The poor, it's about employment. It's about employment. And that's why I really, I have to be more optimistic about this thing, that our senior high school, TESDA, they have their TESDA, for instance, they have done a good thing in terms of really promising an assurance of future jobs, because they are going to really train our people with skills. And the promise of senior high, we still don't know about the senior high, but our promise for the senior high is that we will have good people. It doesn't have to take on a college degree to become employed. It just needs a good quality education, even at the level of a high school, so that people will have jobs. Not everybody is called to be a college graduate. Next. And that's why in terms of jobs, again, people would not be asking that they're not going to dream about becoming affluent. They're not going to dream becoming sapian. But what they just want about jobs is really security. Not in terms of high-paying jobs, but at least a good job that will give them regular flow of income. Because the regular flow of income will give them opportunity to live day on, day in and day out. Not the high income, but more importantly in terms of the regular income flow. Because the regular income flow, this is their shield against poverty and hunger. And this one I mentioned earlier, okay? The jobs, people, the poor, they are more into employment than into entrepreneurship. Okay? And you will say that again, there is still the prevalence of patron-client relations that is really operating in our society today. Patron-client relations meaning to say people would rather want to become under a boss rather than their own boss. Okay? But But at least notice that in Mindanao, the earlier slides that they have shown would the direction is such that people would want to become employer. And that is a good direction. And that is a good direction. That we are not just educating for people to become employees, but we are also educating people not only to become employees but also entrepreneurs. The implication really is, in the end, we really have to match our jobs with our education. Next slide, please. And I would like to end here today. Well, I'm a raw sociologist and I'm also in the education. I'm really putting this forward that education is still a very strong instrument for capability building of human capital. It's good that our government has put a lot of resources in education, and let's try to continue that. But we also have to have a conscious effort to tailor education towards our country's needs for development. So much for the diploma mill. Okay? If we need to close a diploma mill, close them. Okay? We would maybe better test the accredited schools, better senior high schools, rather than you have colleges that will only turn out graduates who are only up to senior high school level. And also this is again, I'm very optimistic in the future that hopefully that we will have a high absorptive capacity in terms of our economy to really to get on this available manpower. And then in the end I would like to say I'm very optimistic. With the kind of growth that we have now, and with some adjustments that we need to consider, again, the attainment of a comfortable life characterized by a modicum standard of living may not be far away. I'm still very realistic, and I support the NEDA's stance about these things, but we really have to collaborate and to cooperate, really, so that our poor may not be poor forever. Walang forever. Thank you very much.
Buntag sa tanan. I will start off with the good comments, and then I'll start with the bad comments. Alright, first I want to congratulate NEDA for and the partner institutions that they've worked with, Xavier University, the Knowledge for Development Community, in what was obviously a very systematically researched and clearly presented. The problem is we are presenting a utopia, but I don't really see a lot of the how. How will we reach that? So we're describing the what. Itong gusto ko. Paano tayo mag-reach doon? Medyo doon lumalabo na yun. I'll tell you why it's making labo. First of all, I don't believe that you really covered the agricultural sector enough. Sino naman yung mga magsasaka na maghahanap na gusto ko ng kotse, gusto ko ng bahay? Okay? Ayan. By the laughter, you can see that inakausap niyo yung iba, hindi yung mga agriculture. And I graduated from the College of Agriculture, Xavier. Naging undersecretary ako sa agriculture. Lahat ng buhay ko, agriculture talaga eh. So ako, I would like to be the champion for the agricultural sector. Okay? Dapat kasi kasama sila sa AmBisyon natin 2040. Okay. First of all, some of my comments are as follows. 50% of the poor is from the agricultural sector. But if you begin to think about it, I've mentioned this many fora, kailangan i-classify mo yung mga mahihirap sa dalawang klase. And please start to spread this because the more I think about it, the more relevant it is. May job-seeking poor at may entrepreneurial poor. Iba ho ang solution niya sa isa't isa. What do I mean by job-seeking poor? Yung nag-aaral, natatapos ng high school, natatapos ng TESDA, natatapos ng college, yan ang vision niyan, trabaho. What is the definition of trabaho? And I mentioned this, by the way, to the World Bank. I told them, yung definitions niyo kulang yan. Because all those guys want to be able to have an 8 to 5 job with a regular salary, 15th and 30th, hopefully with a retirement benefit and no contractualization. Yan ang job-seeking poor. Most of the people here are job-seeking poor. Who do I mean entrepreneurial poor? Yung mga anak, babae, lalaki, mga anak ng mga fishermen, ng mga farmers. Anybody here is a child of a fisherman or a farmer? 1, 2, 3. So maybe 98% are job-seeking poor. The entrepreneurial poor ho, na pinag-uusapan ko, hanggang grade 4 lang yan. They don't even finish grade school. The minute they reach 15, 16, 17 years old, mag-asawa ka na. Ito yung 1 hektarya, magsaka ka na. And from that, he will raise the food to be able to feed his wife and the children he will have. Yan ang entrepreneurial poor. Sino naghahanda ng mga ganyan? Sino ang nagtuturo sa, ito yung mga expense mo, to be able to deal with the business of agriculture. We're expecting the farmers, pakainin mo yung bayan. E paano ako? See? So it's a different approach. If you look at it in that way, job-seeking poor, yan ang TESDA. Yung entrepreneurial poor, I don't see anything yet for the farmers' children. And as you said, 50% of the poor comes from the agricultural sector. And there was mention made, I'm sort of jumping already now, but there was a very good comment made about Malaysia. Where did Malaysia's growth from? Somebody mentioned, Bernie Villegas said, Malaysia's poor today, index of poor is 0%. Saan nanggaling yan? Palm oil, rubber, cacao. Agriculture yan lahat. It's a different approach. We're still looking at the same development policies that we had after the war. Diretso tayo sa industrialization. Wala naman tayong raw materials. Let's put up a steel plant in Iligan. Wala namang iron ore industry. Let's put up cotton factories. Wala naman tayong cotton. Okay? So I'm saying, it's screwed up economics. Let's look at the realities today. Philippines is supposed to be an agricultural country. What are we doing to be able to address the agricultural sector? All the data that you're presenting here, that really is for the job-seeking poor. By entrepreneurial poor, I'd like you to look it over again and perhaps have a different approach. Because that I don't see any course for. Except maybe the farm schools that Fritz Kemperle started and that Rene Gallo is beginning to implement now. I'd like to be able to have Xavier, that I graduated from, start to look at that model and start to teach farmers how to be businessmen. Okay? Alright. What is the problem of the farmers? That was not even mentioned here. And yet when I was with Oka Moreno and a guest from Asian Development Bank, and in the chamber general membership meeting 2 nights ago, I said, ang problema sa agriculture, conflicting land claims. Pinag-aawayan yung lupa. It does not even come up here. Wala. And Oka said, you're right, Bobby. The recent murders in Bukidnon came from land conflicts. Pinag-aawayan. Because yan lang ang security ng mga farmers. Lupa. And yet, 5 ang agency na gobyerno na nagbibigay ng title or rights over the land. Agrarian Reform, DNR, DAR, NCIP, pati yung military. Naglalaban-laban yung mga military at saka yung mga nag-o-occupy actually ng lupa. Malaki yan. Can the NEDA please begin to look at that? And how are we going to address conflicting land claims? That's on the ground. Okay. So I have 3 or 4 suggestions. Then I will end. Number 1, have another study, survey, looking at the poor in agriculture. Talk to the NGOs. There are many, marami yan. Rovanera and I were together in PDAP and at the NGO. You know who led me down that road? Bishop Antonio Ledesma. I was always in the corporate side. I spent 10 years with the NGO organization. Natutunan ko, napakarami. You have to be able to identify that client, entrepreneurial poor. The farmer that wants to be his own boss, magsasaka po yan. He's not looking for a job. He will never get a job. Why? Wala siyang TESDA. Wala siyang high school diploma. Wala siyang college diploma. Sino ang nagtuturo sa kanya? Wala. First point. Second point. Yung mga budget na pinag-uusapan natin, if you're talking about budgets from the government, that will not happen. It will not happen. And yet we need money for development, di ba? You have to be able to start to synchronize funding sources from privately sourced funding. Why? If it's government public funds, this is a specific example I would like to tell you. I was in a workshop on corn. Do we import? We don't import. We import, we don't import. Every year that was going on, up to today, it's still happening. At that time, when I had that conference workshop, the importation level was 600,000 metric tons of corn. Kulang tayo. I said, I have a simple solution for that. 600,000 metric tons of corn divided by 4. 10 na galing yung 4. The yield of native corn seeds and the yield of hybrid. Galing po ako sa hybrid, higher technology. Hindi po ito yung genetic engineering. At that time, it was still simple breeding techniques. Selective process. Okay? 5 versus 1. Increment 4. 600,000 metric tons to be imported divided by 4, 150,000 hectares. Kumuha ka na 160 na para madali yung math. 40,000 hectares from South Cotabato, 40,000 hectares from Bukidnon, 40,000 hectares from Cagayan Valley, 40,000 hectares sa Isabela. Those are the major corn areas. Madali yan. If you really go in and you put government resources to do that, you will be self-sufficient in corn in 1 year. Department of Agriculture thought it was a great idea. They presented it to Congress, and the people that had no corn lands just asked one question: paano kami? What actually ended up happening is they calculated the total amount for the agricultural budget divided by 200 congressmen. Anong nangyari? Wala. Because the congressmen are interested in magkano dyan ang makukuha ko sa probinsya ko. Walang strategic thinking. You want to solve something? What was the Malaysian experience? Malaysia, Mahathir, asked his cabinet, what can we go into to export agricultural products? Somebody said rice. Somebody else said, no, we will never be able to beat Vietnam. Let's just buy from Vietnam. Where are we today? Balik na naman tayo sa rice self-sufficiency. Mali, mali, mali. Dr. Villegas was saying that, and I was saying, please, I hope Manny Piñol, who's incoming Agriculture Secretary, will have that view na. Ang agriculture ay negosyo. Do not put the burden of feeding the country on the farmers. Dapat kumita yung farmer, uunlad ang agriculture. Malaysia did that. And they just imported it. Why? Have an NFA that's corruption-free. At yung kwarta dyan sa NFA, hindi lang milyon. Billion yan. So that has to be watched very carefully, and NFA will be the great balancer. Kung magkukulang ako, import tayo. Make sure we never run out. But the farmers, the mission of the Department of Agriculture has to be farmer profitability, not food security. Kung kikita ang farmers, uunlad tayo. Malaysia, somebody mentioned, is a perfect example. And they import the rice. Okay. Third, adopt the principle of inclusive growth through inclusive business. Anong ibig sabihin nun? Isama mo yung mahihirap sa negosyo, mismong negosyo. Hindi foundation, ha? Hindi ito corporate social responsibility, social enterprise. No. That's crazy. We had a seminar, workshop in the Little Theater, World Bank. And the native representative there, Tato Rio, siya, tinuturuan naman po kami ng dressmaking. Hindi naman kami gumagawa ng dress eh. There is an expression that they still have a sign here in the Sirsuling that said, you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. Teach a man how to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. Today, that's already wrong. Teach a man how to fish, you feed him for a lifetime if you're in the fishing business. Bibilhin mo yung isda. You teach him that, no, we send this to the cannery, this one go for salting, for the bulad, this one is going to go to the ice plant, etc., etc. Yan, isama mo yung mahihirap, fishermen, farmers, whatever. Example, one project I was able to start, it's now still going on, papaya contract growing of Del Monte. 70% of the papaya used today by Del Monte in the tropical fruit cocktail comes from small farmers. May negosyo sila, may technology, may planting material, may market at price. Is it perfect? No. But the fact is, it survived. Kumikita ang Del Monte, kumikita ang farmer. Now Del Monte wants to do 700 hectares this year. And because they already bought Del Monte USA, the new owners of Del Monte that are Pinoy, by the way, they're saying, marami mga familia sa Florida that have been growing oranges for us for generations. Why can't we do that here? Yabang ano. But we can move towards that. Isama mo yung mahihirap na mga farmer sa mga kanyan, sa Sumilao, sa Bukidnon, sa Kabanglasan. Isama mo sa mga malalaking kompanya for the technology, planting material, market, and price. And then have the government be the honest broker to make sure hindi sila exploited. Okay? Last point that I'd like to raise is just this. It was mentioned out-of-school youth. Sino yung mga out-of-school youth? Yung mga tinatap ng NPA. Anak ng mga farmers and fishermen. I got this straight from a youth that was there in Bendung. Because I'm also on the chair of Father Walpole's native school in Bendung. 2 hours away from Balay-Balay. Interior. He came to Father and said, Father, bigyan mo naman ako ng trabaho. I said, why? Naghihirap na yung family mo sa income. Hindi ho, Father. Kasi ang sistema po dito, kung dadalaw ang NPA the first time, naka-standby ka sa tindahan, bakit ka nandyan? Nakahanap pa ng trabaho. Second time, he sees you again. Third time, persada ka lang i-join sa kanila. That's reality. That's your out-of-school youth. And with that, I'd like to close up. Maraming salamat sa attention.
May buntag sa tanan. Una sa tanan, I'd like to congratulate the NBA fans who are in this room because I know that you are really making a big sacrifice. Kaya pagsulod ako kanina, hapit ko ako lahos din kaya nakakita ko na yung grupo nga ni Sibat. Nakatanaw sa TV sa gawas. So, masin maayon nga rin nabaon din nila sa score sa Game 7. Kung nakuman na. Kibaw mo? Wala pa? Ha? Ha? Leading ang Cubs. Champion na. Okay, see? Anyway, so I congratulate katong malapadibat nga NBA fans nga maminaw gyud sa AmBisyon natin 2040. First of all, I'd like to really also commend NEDA for conducting this survey. Congratulations, this is very important. I'm very impressed with the sample size that you reached 10,000 sample size, and you went male, female, different ages, rural, urban, and representative. So I think it's really important, and the timing, your timing is also very good as we begin a new administration in a few days' time. It'll be a good start. I hope that I am almost certain, I think incoming Secretary Pernia, who is an economist and was worked at ADB, I'm sure will take this also very seriously and adopt it. I think I read somewhere that he said, of course, this would be seriously considered. So I have one request for NEDA. I hope that you will make this available, especially the data behind for our faculty, for our students, if XU can approach you, and if we can have the data. I think it will be very interesting to break up, to mine the data in terms of the income class, A, B, C, D, na by differences within rural and urban, katong isulti ni Mr. Ansaldo, different sa age group, yung concern ni Tonton about the different, are there differences of aspirations, no, kung sa different age groups. Gender, for example, is there a difference? Regions, for example, as we know, Mindanao is becoming the center of the country now, so it would be important to see how Mindanao would be, or are there differences in the region. So I don't know whether the analysis has been done by NEDA itself. I have no, have we broken down the data? Anyway, if you can share it, the analysis, and also if not, even just to share the data with us, so the students here and our faculty perhaps can do some studies about it. So I'd be very grateful. My second point is that from my personal reading, I just saw the summary, and I'd like to mention three things that I was very impressed by the results personally. First of all, like Father Rene, I'm impressed that people have chosen majority a simple and comfortable life as opposed to affluent and life of the rich. I think that that's a very promising and hopeful sign for us as a people, that we really have our aspirations, but our aspirations is really to have a decent, simple, comfortable life. And I think coming from the Catholic tradition, that is very promising. That what we really aspire for is that we have a decent, comfortable life for people that will be able to share with others. So for me, that finding was very impressive. The second finding I found impressive was, although as Mr. Santos pointed out, it's very jobs-oriented, I had some consolation looking at the glass as half full, that there were some who were already considering entrepreneurship, of going into business and trying to go into businesses ourselves and not just simply think of ourselves as employees, no? But being able to go into business. And I'm hopeful about that, and I really like to see the numbers of how many aspire to become entrepreneurs. And I think the future of the country is really going into this, what Mr. Ansaldo said about really going into enterprises. And if we have more small and medium scale entrepreneurs all over the country, I think that will really add to the growth that we need. The third thing that impressed me very much was the desire to eradicate poverty. I think that's very important, that really is a very serious problem that we have been grappling with over all these years. And although like with the Aquino administration, I think it's very fair to say that economic growth has really happened. We are really one of the top performing now in Asia. Last quarter, nag-overtake pa kita sa China in terms of growth. there is really economic growth. But the problem, as we all know, is the growth inclusive? Does the growth benefit the poor? Are we able to eradicate poverty? And to have that as an aspiration, I think for me is a hopeful and also a promising sign. So those are the three things that I was quite impressed with the results personally. What did I find lacking? What did I miss? And I said, and I was surprised by this. In economics, we sort of define sustainable development as a triopod with three areas. The first one, of course, is growth. And here, I think it's reflected in the aspiration for a simple, comfortable life. I think that's part of that. And then the second tripod is, of course, that the growth is inclusive. There is equity. It is shared. The growth is shared. And again, the aspiration there of eradicating poverty is very important. But what I miss is the third tripod of sustainable development, which is really care for the environment and seeing that we are able to pass on the gifts of God in terms of nature, in terms of our natural environmental resources, to pass it on to future generations, and that this environmental concern is there. And I was surprised that there is almost, at least I did not see much in terms of environment concerns and aspirations. I'm very surprised, especially because, as we know, I think in the last 30, 40 years, if there is any global trend that has been happening that is very clear, is that there is really a growing concern among people for caring for the earth, for environment. There is a strong environmental consciousness. If you read surveys of youth groups, for example, among the young, there is really also a very strong environmental concern. And that's why I was sort of surprised that it's not there. I was wondering whether is it because of the instrument that was used in the survey, that very little of it was given, whether it wasn't highlighted, or was it asked, or was the response really low? I'm not sure. But that really did surprise me, that I saw very little for aspirations in terms of the environment. To put it into economic terms, I would say I was looking for what is the demand for environmental goods and services. What are the aspirations of our people for clean air? What are the aspirations of our people for clean water? What are the aspirations of our people for solid waste management? What are the aspirations of our people for green areas, that we would like our communities to have green spaces, to have green parks, to have areas where there are trees, for example, and ponds. What is our concern for biodiversity? What is our concern for clean rivers? What is our concern for that our forests are healthy and that we still have forests? What is our concern for our coastal areas? Do we care for our beaches and for our coastal areas and for our corals, for example, for our marine life? Where is the concern for climate change and low carbon economy? That we would like to have green buildings, not just any simple building, but we would like our buildings, our infrastructure to be environmentally friendly. In this age of climate change, what is the real demand and what is the willingness to pay for renewable energy? That instead of burning coal, we will use hydro, we will use solar, we will use wind for our energy resources. How much is really the aspiration and the demand for that? So I was really hoping, and I was surprised actually, that there is very little of that in the survey and as aspirations, especially in this age of environmental consciousness and caring for the earth. Xavier last year was very inspired by the encyclical of Pope Francis Laudato Si, the very first papal encyclical about caring for the earth and for the environment. And it sort of really said that this is very important. And that's what the Pope's message was, that we are all connected and we must hear not only the cry of the poor, but also the cry of the earth. So I was very surprised that there is very little of that here. And I would like to explore, maybe because wala ibang utana sa instrument, or and I'd be more upset or sort of sad if kung gipangutanan niya, gamay na kainingon nga, ganahan may clean air, ganahan may clean water. So, I know that this is difficult. It's not natural to gauge it, and that's where my bias comes in. I trained in environmental economics, because in environmental economics, we know that non-marketed money, mga clean air, clean water, biodiversity. Hindi kita pwede mato sa kaysano, mga itatap. Gusto ko mo palit to clean air, gusto ko mo palit to clean water. Non-marketed, it's in the economists in the room, this is an externality that's non-marketed. But it doesn't mean it's not important. I think the consciousness has grown, na importante rin sila, and we have to really find out what is the demand of people. Is this part of our aspiration? I would like to believe that it really is, and I hope that we are able to articulate this also as part of our AmBisyon for 2040. So, daghang salamat ug may buntag sa inyong tanan.
Hello. Okay. Thank you very much, Father Bob, Father Rene, Sir Bobby, and Tonton. At this point, we would like to open the microphone. We'll have an open floor for everyone to share their insights and ideas about AmBisyon Natin 2040. And we have two microphones here, and if you want to ask questions, share your ideas, please identify yourself and your idea or question. Anyone? Robert?
Morning, my name is Robert Dulacerna. Looking at the vision again, this is my first reaction. More or less, it does reflect our aspiration, but aspiration of Filipinos in a very materialistic nature, right? It's all about personal economic security and safety nets, but we haven't really gone beyond post-materialism, right? We haven't even talked about political stability, environmental sustainability, culture and arts, and my bias is on science. Well, Thailand and Malaysia are probably talking about evidence-based policy making decision processes. This is not reflected in our vision as a people. I was hoping to see if we can go beyond aspiring for our first world country by 2014, while Malaysia and Thailand are already talking about that in 2020. We still have like 24 years to go. That's all.
Probably Neris, you can join the panel.
Thank you very much to the panelists. Those are very insightful comments you had. Just to respond to some of the points you raised. First on the environment, the way we did this, you notice in one of the slides. So in one of the slides, yung components ng long-term vision process, first, we had the focus group discussions, focusing on the marginalized sectors. So, kasama dito yung farmers, fisher folk, internally displaced persons, and so youth. So yun, it was patterned after the National Anti-Poverty Commission basic sectors. 14 basic sector representatives. So, The way we designed it is that first we conducted focus group discussions with these people, and then from the results of the FGDs, we designed the survey questionnaire. The thing about the environmental sustainability is that unfortunately, it's not really in the consciousness of ordinary people. But yeah, it's very unfortunate. So siguro yung mga youth, sana mabigyan ninyo ng oras talaga itong environmental issues. Kasi parang kung nagta-travel tayo, makikita nyo yung basura sa na iniiwan sa beach. Anyway, but it doesn't mean we're not incorporating environmental sustainability. Again, if you saw the components, yun, yung technical studies, ay, dalawa yung number 2. Yung thematic study, there are 10 thematic studies at kasama dito yung environmental issues. So we have a study on energy and what else? So environment. So at least there are 2 technical studies on that. So kasama dito yung yung sinasabi ninyo na power mix, for example. And ito yung mga technical studies na estimate ng advantages and disadvantages, costs and benefits of all the strategies. Secondly, again, we emphasize that it's a vision, not a plan at this point. It should, of course, lead to the planning process. Pero what we feel kasi, this is a 25-year project, so dapat meron tayong, dahil para maging basis of unity siya, kailangan nag-agree tayo doon sa end goals. Magkakaiba tayo doon sa strategies. So, we probably would argue about the strategies and approaches, but we leave it up to the political administration and the technocrats in every administration to think of those strategies, kung ano yung realistic, kung ano yung mas at that time. For example, in this coming administration, ito yung aspirations ng mga tao, paano natin tutugunan at paano natin iisipin given the current realities, given the current opportunities and challenges. So that's how we designed this process. And secondly, the simple, hindi pala namin na-show yung isang slide kanina, yung simple actually is rather deceptively simple kasi kung makikita niyo yung elements kung ano yung gusto nila, we actually calculated how much it takes on a monthly basis. Ano nga yun? It's actually 120,000 yun, gross monthly income per capita. That's how, and marami nito itong assumptions. So itong halimbawa, own a car, 5,000 lang, kasi ang assumption nito is marunong na ng financial planning yung mga pamilya. Ibig sabihin, may kotse na sila by that time. So, maintenance na lang ito. And ang assumption din is meron na tayong income tax reform. So, 25,000 a month na lang a year na lang yung income tax. So, those are very rough estimates, initial estimates lang. Pero yun, it's not actually, higher upper income actually yung gusto ng mga tao. And I'm not sure if it was shown earlier, parang nasa 11,000 per capita, 11,000 US dollars on an annual basis per capita yung desired income status ng Pilipinas by 2040. So, those yun muna po. The data tables, sir, are already available on our website, 2040.neda.gov.ph. Inayos lang yung kasi yung raw data hindi pa namin ma-share, but the data tables by demographics, socio-economic, yun, naka-upload.
Okay, without further ado.
It's quite interesting, really, and I would like to affirm what Father Bobby was saying, that can we play around with data? that we really play around with data and maybe really analyze, because the data consists of 10,000, and that's really a good, a good base, and it says a lot. And we don't need conjectures at this point. We really need evidence-based that this is what the data is providing us in terms of the profile. Let's say, for instance, that about sustainability, about ecology, we really need to go deeper into such things as, are the poor really aware of ecological issues? Because maybe it's really an issue about the middle class and the rich in terms of ecological issues. What is the data? How is this presented in the data? Certain things like that, and maybe we can go a long way in terms of getting this hard data and analyzing them and publishing them. Okay? And we can have our faculty deal with the data. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Rene. Wilson has a question.
Not so much of a question, but more on a comment also. Interestingly, 10,000 is quite a good representative of the survey. And it is interesting to note also that simple and gusto lang yun sa mga tao. Pero like Sir Robert, parang focus on the having materials, not so much on the desire to participate in governance, not so much to be listened to by our leaders. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments? Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Lourdes Rodinas from the Department of Agriculture. I really have to speak, otherwise sayang naman ang presence ko dito. Siguro parang comment or ano ba to? But I just like to react on the statement of our former Yusek Ansado. Kasi maraming nakarinig po, di ba ka susunugin nilang office namin? About how we did our budget. We did not really divide the budget outright into how many congressmen that we have, but we allocate our resources, our financial resources to where it should be, o saan bang province ang mas maraming agricultural activities at anong commodities na mas maraming small farmers na nag-engage. And ganun po, hindi po dinivide namin outright para ma-please namin yung mga congressmen. And I think sa system din siguro natin na since dati-dati pa siguro, since time immemorial, yung decision ng farmer what to plant ay sa kanila yon, and it is always affected. Ang farm activities or farming natin ay affected by yung size or ng system natin ng pag-transfer ng mga properties galing sa mga ninuno natin. So what we saw is that the decision on what to plant sa farm ay nagiging parang small dahil every time na ma-inherit yon by so many siblings, ma-divide yung farm nila. So nagiging small farm siya, dati malaki, nagiging small siya. At saka ang decision ng isang farm on what to plant ay nagiging iba-iba. When it was supposedly 5 hectares, nagiging 1 hectare, tapos nagiging na lang half or hanggang nagiging kung rice nagiging isang padi na lang ng rice yung yung nainirit ng isang ng anak or ng farmer. So we respect that decision of the farmer kung anong itatanim niya. We just really have to support kasi kung saan siya confident mag-endeavor, doon siya namin i-support. And we also try to keep them planting by providing some inputs. For example, sa seeds. If yung sinabi mo na yung corn, no, ang problem namin dyan ay the farmers usually kung maganda ang presyo ng sugarcane, nag-shift sila ng sugarcane. Kung kunyari sa rubber, kung ang rubber ay mababa yung presyo, pinuputol nila at tinatamnan na naman ng iba. So, ganun. Kami rin ay we have to adjust to their decisions, and we cannot really di namin namin yung gusto talaga namin na, for example, if we want to like sa needs ng corn ng buong buong Pilipinas na for example, if we can contribute na ma-diminish yung importation by devoting, for example, thousands of hectares of corn. Hindi namin yun pwedeng i-force to the farmers na ganun kasi yun nga, they plant what they want to plant. Thank you po.
Okay, thank you very much, ma'am. And for those who have questions but are afraid to stand in front of the panelists, especially in the presence of the four panelists here, you can tweet your questions and we will make sure that NEDA Central Office and NEDA Region 10 will answer your questions by use the hashtag AmBisyon Natin 2040, and we will make sure that the NEDA people will respond to your questions online. But other than that, if you have questions now, please ask them. Yes, ma'am. Yes, Sir Bobby. Si Sir Bobby, ma'am, and then Sir Bobby.
If I give the impression I was attacking the Department of Agriculture, I was not. Okay, so I'd like to apologize for any misimpressions. Sa gobyerno po napakalirap. The government agencies, for example, the Department of Agriculture, are always caught in between. Okay, between Congress, between the farmers, and it's very difficult. Very difficult. If there's one thing that I learned when I was in government service, I was only for 2 years, a government role, wala kang panalo. If you make 2 people happy, you'll make 20 people unhappy on the other side. Any issue that you discuss, you're caught in between. Okay, so this is not the attack on the Department of Agriculture. Please, wag ho ninyong sunugin yung opisina ng Department of Agriculture. What I wanted to point out, this is more in terms of raising the problem of a lack of strategic thinking to the NEDA that organized this. It has to be brought together so that the Filipino family, and this is not raised by me, and this was raised by Doris Magsaysay Ho after the first day of the APEC meeting a couple of months ago. Doris said, I've started to talk to government offices, and I'm sorry to say I see no strategic thinking. See? I don't intend to put you on the spot, okay? But I just wanted to be able to raise a question. Ask anybody in the room today, ano po yung agricultural policy ng Pilipinas ngayon? I don't want to belabor the question, I don't want to put you in a hot spot. But my opinion is rice self-sufficiency. Because 75% of the budget is devoted to that. Now, kung gumagastos ka ng 75% of your budget on rice, people will plant rice because there's financing there. And you are obviously giving, so if that's the agricultural policy, it really does not seem to be consistent with you're helping the farmers plant what they want. You are channeling the resources to be able to achieve rice self-sufficiency. That was the administration of Pinoy, who I dearly love because I served under Cory, but there was no agricultural policy. And so if we can start with that, maybe you can help. NEDA, please help the Department of Agriculture, DNR, agrarian reform, etc. That's the clustering. I've been to many workshops on that, and there is no real clear on where the government is going. This is the difference between us and Malaysia. Malaysia had strategic thinking. They identified the crops that we could be competitive. They could be competitive internationally, and they devoted the resources to that, and they are where they are today. That's what I mean by a need for strategic thinking. Thank you.
Thank you, Sir Bob. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning to everybody. My question is about most of the Filipinos, 70% is want simple and comfortable. So how could we achieve it? The government, as of now, most of the offices is corrupt. And it is the agriculture is forget by the government. That's why many agriculturists, one of my father is agriculturist. The problem there is when the rice come, the buyer bought it on a very small amount, and when it comes to the market, the rice is very expensive. So what I mean is the government need to support about the agriculture exactly. They need the government to support the agriculture so that I believe it is also that 50% came from the farmers poor. That is exactly, I believe it. That's why I want address to the leader. They will help the government or whatever they can suggest that they will help most of the, if they will help the farmers, exactly little only is poor in this country. Because in Singapore, no, in what country that is nearest port to Philippines? It is Singapore. No, not Singapore. No, not the Singapore near sa S. Afghanistan. No. Where the rice we get from? Oh, yes, Vietnam. So they are the poorest, the people they are the poorest compared to the Philippines. Why they are progressive now? Because the government support the agriculturists, the small farmers to produce more rice. So where we get in NFA, diba sa ila. So my comment this is perhaps most of the workers also in a big city escape from province, diba? Most in Manila, they leave their farm, they leave their land and go to the big city to find a job, just only a laborer, just only a one, but they have a big area there in the province. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else? Tonton.
This is also addressed to most of the audience is students, and I understand na you might feel overwhelmed because they're talking about government policy. Those things are not so much of our concern. So, I mean, as of this point, but I would like to also make this an opportunity to encourage you guys that as young people, there are really two things that you can do. The first one is you study hard. I mean, you study. You learn in school. And second is, try to get involved in orgs, youth organizations, in your spare time. Because when you involve yourselves in organizations, that does not just help you grow yourself as a person, but it also, you are directly contributing to what we call social capital. You are building a community through your involvement in community activities. So that is why never discount the power of youth organizations in campus or outside campus, be it in your church, in your community, in your subdivision. Join them because when you engage, you actually add capital to society. And eventually, the learnings that you'll get from those involvements, you will carry with them when you enter into positions of power. Be it in the business world, academe, government, you bear that in mind. And I think that's one thing that we can directly contribute to the vision for 2040. You get involved. And involve yourselves in community issues.
Hello, I am Louis. I teach economics in Xavier. I'm a young economics teacher. I only have 3 things in mind. One is just a rejoinder to what Father Bobby said. We just want to know the demography of the participants. We just want to know if how many of them are coming from the youth. Are the IP people are included also in that aspiration, etc., etc. We'd love to have the raw data if possible. Probably we can do something out from that data. And then secondly, it's just an affirmation. I think to our students who are here, I think that's the point why we have to validate later on, why we have to discuss. So if you think that you cannot relate on the data, I think that's the point that we need to participate later and probably speak up or contribute something to the AmBisyon natin. And then thirdly, just a concern. Though I agree that we differ on short-term and mid-term goals, but once we talk about goals, goals are also subject for change. So what about if our goals would change in 10 years' time? That's 25 years. By then, I am 47 years old. So what about, just an example, no? We just want a car. What about if I already have the car and the goal is already different? So I just want to know if there are updating or validation in 10 years time, 5 years time. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Yes, assuming the tables are already uploaded, as I mentioned. So kasama na doon yung demographics. Makikita nyo doon yung how many people are represented per sector, yung ganon. So yung sample size and the details of the samples will be there. 2040.neda.gov.ph. And as for yung tama kayo, actually we envision it to have, another survey in 10 years. So ako pa dun sa naisip namin 10 years kasi nga, we really anticipate that our ambitions or aspirations will change over time. Kasi magkakaroon ng panibagong challenges, magkakaroon with climate change, with technology, maraming magbabago in the next 25 years. So we really anticipate that these aspirations will change over time. Siyempre, as we evolve, as we develop as a country and as individuals, then this will change. And we hope to have another survey by in 10 years' time, assuming that we'll still take the lead in that effort.
Okay, reminder lang, there's going to be a workshop later this afternoon, so if you have more questions later, pwede siya ma-discuss sa workshop. And then naka-post din na for your comments and suggestions, please go to this link and you can post your questions dito. And for Twitter, you can use the hashtag AmBisyon natin 2040. Okay, any questions? Gutom na mong tanan. Okay, I'd like to call in the Vice President for Social Development, Sir Roel Rabanera, to help us give out the certificate of appreciation to our panelists And I'd like to call in Jean Dipano of World Bank, the World Bank representative, to help us out. And of course, Ms. Nerissa Esguerra for this one also. So let me read the citation. The National Economic Development Authority of Xavier University, Cagayan, World Bank, Philippines, Manila, and the Knowledge for Development Community present a certificate of appreciation to panelist's name for being a panelist in the AmBisyon Natin 2040 Public Forum held on the 20th of June 2006 at Xavier University. Signed, Nerissa Esguerra, Director of Development Information Staff of NEDA, and Ruel Arabanera, Vice President for Social Development, Xavier University. First, we'd like to get Mr. Ernesto Neri. Okay, Father Renette Takasakas of the Society of Jesus. Mr. Roberto Ansaldo. And finally, Father Roberto Sia of the Society of Jesus. Okay, and with that, we'd like to thank everyone for this morning's sessions, and we can